The views expressed on this episode, as with all episodes of We Hate Your Baby Daddy, are based solely on our personal opinions and shit we heard in the streets.
The content here should not be taken as indisputable fact. This show is for entertainment purposes only, so enjoy and don't come for us.
Welcome back to another episode of We Hate Your Baby Daddy. And as it has been in the past couple weeks, it's just me, Bree. And I want to talk about Vince McMahon. Before I get into Vince McMahon, as usual, life update. Still unemployed. Still so unemployed. But I'm like coming to terms with it. Like I've seen on LinkedIn, like people have been unemployed for like 2 years. Like the economy is in the toilet. But you know what? I'm surviving and thriving. And actually, my mom is going to be moving in with me and my daughter. So that should alleviate some like childcare costs and give me more time to apply and interview and stuff. So, there are there's some light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm just trying to stay positive. So yeah, that's what is going on with me. Before we jump into Mr. McMahon, if you guys have not left a review yet, please leave us a review. Please share the show with someone. Once D comes back, which will hopefully be sometime this month, we're going to be back bigger and better than ever. So, share us around. We just want to grow the show and get really popular. Like this is fun. It's a little fun thing for you, for me, for all of us. And that being said, let's go ahead and get into the episode. Vince McMahon is a 79-year-old man who inherited a professional wrestling business from his father. The company has changed names a ton of times, but it's currently known as the WWE, the Worldwide Wrestling Entertainment, something like that. So Vince, he has been married to his wife, Linda Edwards, for decades. They got married in 1966. She was 17 when they got married, and I think he's 3 years older than her. And they're still married, but it seems like they're kind of estranged, and we'll get into that in a bit. But Vince McMahon has openly admitted in interviews, there's a Playboy interview that he did where he admitted that he's been cheating on her for the entire marriage, the entire marriage. He never was not cheating on her. So together they have 2 kids, Shane and Stephanie McMahon, and between those 2 kids they have 6 grandchildren. And so basically, he is famous for being the most prolific commentator slash promoter for the WWE, this company that he inherited from his dad. And he would make his family do the show with him. And if you want to see what this looks like, there is that new Netflix documentary called Mr. McMahon that will kind of just provide some visuals of what I'm about to describe. I mean, he's crazy. So if you're like me and you love documentaries, you should check that out. But anyway, he would make his family do the show with him, and he had them act as exaggerated versions of themselves in the ring, and they even would wrestle with professional wrestlers. Which is a weird thing for you to make your kids do, but whatever. As an example, so there was a plot line that he did where he had a female wrestler, quote unquote, pretend to be his mistress. And she was also pretending to be his wife, Linda's nurse. And she would push her around in a wheelchair and be like, oh, I gave her a strong dose of this medication, so she's knocked out. And then they would just make out in front of her. This was all on live TV. They were all using their real names, but they were playing characters. It was fucking weird. And so all this was televised, and the gross idiots who love this professional wrestling, they were just captivated by it. And the WWE became so popular with men of all ages from all over the world for so many years. Like Vince McMahon became a billionaire based on this business that he inherited from his father. And so the show like heavily relied on really sexist tropes and like misogynistic plot lines. There were plot lines where female wrestlers had to kiss McMahon or like let him rope them, and they wore like these skimpy little like wrestling outfits or lingerie, and they got manhandled a lot by like the male wrestlers. Like it was gross. It was really gross. And one of the main reasons why I wanted to talk about Vince McMahon as a shitty baby daddy is because when his daughter Stephanie and her husband, she's married to a professional wrestler named Triple H. When she got pregnant, Vince asked if she'd be okay with a plot line where he claims that he might be the one who impregnated her. His own daughter. That was his idea that he came up with for a plot line. And she was like, no, we're not doing that. Thank God. And so Vince McMahon stepped down as CEO of the WWE first in 2022 because there were rumors that he was paying hush money to women who worked for the WWE that he slept with and was having affairs with. And so to kind of like draw attention away from that, he just announced that he was retiring, which, you know, he had been doing this since what, like the early 80s. So it was like big news that kind of detracted away from the headlines. But then he came back as executive chairman in 2023. And like his daughter, Stephanie, was the CEO. And he just was like, nope, she's resigning. I'm coming back. But then there were more allegations that came out of accusing him of sex trafficking and sexual assault. So he stepped down again. And let me tell you, I read like the messages that are part of the lawsuit. And let me tell you, he's fucking gross. Like, this is a nasty old man. He's into some really sick things that I really am not gonna get into. I mean, you can Google it. I mean, he was like, I don't even want to say it. It's gross. Just look it up. But allegedly, he was like trafficking female staff and female wrestlers to the male wrestlers. And there was a UFC guy named Brock Lesnar who he wanted to sign to the WWE. And one of the things he said, he was like, "Oh, I'll give you access to this woman. I don't want to use her name, but um, I'll give you access to her as part of the contract." And he fucking signed it. The dude signed the contract. He's like, "I like what I see," and he signed it. And Vince McMahon texts the woman and he's like, "Oh, Brock likes what he sees." Like, ew. Like, that's a fucking crime in and of itself. You can't include having sex with a person, like unfettered access to this person as part of a contract. Like, that's like slavery. So I think some of these other wrestling fucks are going to get taken down soon. I mean, we already did an episode on fucking Hulk Hogan of Cunt Mania. And as you guys know, I mean, he should have been canceled 100 million times, but he was at the RNC just chopping it up on stage, ripping his shirt off. But you know, all of these guys, I think they have like CTE from just being punched in the head for so many years. I mean, there was a wrestler named Chris Benoit who was just taking steroids and falling on his head. And then he killed his whole family, like himself, his wife, and his child, because he was fucking crazy. But anyway, despite all the controversy, the WWE somehow is still a thing. And apparently, it has a new partnership with Netflix that is going to begin in January 2025. And so I found the timing of this documentary pretty interesting. It's like they're trying to lay the groundwork to distance themselves from Vince McMahon so their advertisers won't drop them. You know, the WWE is distancing themselves. Netflix is like, we don't even know the guy. Like, got nothing to do with him. So we'll see how that goes. But all in all, to wrap things up here, Vince McMahon is a obviously shitty husband of multiple decades and the worst possible baby daddy that anybody could ever have. His son Shane says that his dad has never even told him that he's proud of him. He's like, I can remember one time he alluded to being proud of me and like patted me on the back. And Vince McMahon in that same documentary, he was like, well, my father never gave me a pat on the back and I turned out great. Like, you're a rapist and a sex trafficker. You did not turn out great. Just because you're a billionaire, that does not mean you turned out great. He's cooked. But anyway, he was just too focused on sexually harassing like any woman who came near him instead of like trying to be a good parent. So I really hope, the result of all these lawsuits, I mean, there's like a federal investigation. I think there's a civil suit. I hope he gets convicted of everything he is being charged with. I hope he does jail time. I hope he fucking dies in the jail. I mean, he literally ruined people's lives. But if you watch a documentary, it's like the men, they give a completely different perspective. Oh, he's like a father to me. Yeah, because he wasn't raping you. Although there was also a scandal where some guys would have ring boys. Like, right, what's a ring boy? They would have ring boys that were like they were like, basically interns helping out with like setting up the wrestling ring. And I mean, not Vince McMahon, but somebody, some people were like raping them. So it's like nobody was really safe. But as always happens with abusers, you have the people who are like, well, I was never a victim, so I just don't even know. You know, disgusting, diabolical, and despicable. But that is Vince McMahon. I appreciate you guys bearing with me while I'm doing this solo show. And if you want to be a guest on an episode, please let me know. DM me. I would love to talk shit about your baby daddy. And also, as usual, follow us, like us, love us. We're on every social media platform as at WHY Baby Daddy Pod. And leave us a review if you haven't already. We love to read your wonderful, nice reviews. Thank you for listening, and then we'll see you next week. Bye.